We have these moments where we are impulsively eating junk, uncapped handfuls of something, a sugary drink or snack that we said we were done with, pulling up in a drive-through line automatically. Like, how did I get here? Is self-control even a real thing? The reason this matters is because whether our cravings are habitual or episodic, they add up, and they aren't particularly helpful for us, especially for our waistlines. As a wise man once said, every crumb must be accounted for. This video is brought to you by my partners at LMNT.
Ooh, freshly baked chocolate chips, nuts, warm fudge running down the sides. Imagine picking it up, bringing it close to your nose, inhaling the sweet scent of chocolate. Imagine bringing it to your mouth and taking a bite. You can feel the rich texture, the indulgent
What if I
taste.
don't like brownies? Huh? I'm just saying, I see what you're doing, just what if I don't like brownies?
You can feel the rich texture, the indulgent taste.
Hey, that brownie demonstration is not even my work. Those are actually lines from this research paper that starts off by demonstrating our cravings are inseparably connected to our mind. They state 99% of adults experience craving something, which means if you've never craved something, then you're in an odd 1% of people, which good for, well, actually, no, we should be worried about you. You need help. But the rest of us, let's focus on how we can get a grip on these cravings, especially for that junk. I want to suggest to you that it's not that we can't have these foods, right? That they're just off limits. We really just want to have a better understanding of what's going on up here and how we can use this to be able to have better self-control in these craving moments. Now, when I first came up with the idea for this video, I was thinking about what could be contributing to us eating in these moments that we probably shouldn't, specifically reaching for food that we know isn't all that good for us, right? I wanted at first to attribute it to stress, and I started off digging there and I found some interesting stuff. Check this out. Researchers took 15 healthy males and gave them one of two things. Either they gave them a drug that did virtually nothing, also known as a placebo drug, or they dosed them with a drug that mimics the action of cortisol in the body. What the heck is cortisol? Cortisol is a hormone. Hormones are messengers that communicate to our tissues and organs to do stuff. But we gotta be careful here because cortisol isn't causing stress, it's just called upon to help regulate it. So what is cortisol telling our body to do in these stressful events? Well, essentially it's saying to make more fuel available for the body to use as energy. So it's going to be breaking down some fat stores and bringing more glucose into the blood that the body can use. And because of all of this energy that's lost, cortisol also represents this refeeding effect that says, hey, let's start eating so we can get some of this energy replaced back. And a lot of times that looks like us having uncapped handfuls of our favorite comfort foods as we watch Netflix. Back to the study. The researchers kept both the placebo and the drug group in a laboratory stocked with 2 vending machines, stocked with 34 different tray options in which there was much variety. Okay, so we can tell this is probably not your typical vending machine. They're not just hitting E7 and getting a Snickers. They're probably getting a burrito. I don't know, I just feel like there's a burrito somewhere in there. The participants were told they could eat ad libitum, meaning have whatever you like, as much as you like, however often you'd like. The 7 participants that had the cortisol mimicking drug in their system were knocking down thousands more calories than the folks with the placebo. When measured up, the placebo group was eating 2,867 more calories than they technically needed for maintaining weight. And for the actual drug group, we're talking 4,554 more calories than needed to technically maintain weight. Okay, so you guys know how I am about calories. All calories aren't the same, right? But this is not a negligible difference, right? All of this food has to go somewhere. Oh, hey, I said that you guys know how I am about calories, but all of you may not know how I am about calories. You see, my uncle invented calories. No, just kidding. Calorie counting is a method, and for many years, it was actually used as the primary go-to strategy to lose weight. However, in the last decade or so, there's been a lot of health communicators saying that it should be taken out of the limelight, mainly because it doesn't account for the fact that all calories aren't the same. It just denotes calories in minus calories out equals your weight. Not necessarily, right? So lately there's been this push to start including the facts about the food as it is a food, right? Not just the numbers. Because here's the thing, calorie counting is a beautifully uniform science. the body is not a beautifully uniform science. I will say that calorie counting as a method, though, has granted people some results. So it does have some merit, but it's just not including the entire conversation. It's probably not where I'd start if I were talking weight management. Let's get back to it. Okay, so stress and cortisol may be having an impact on these cravings. And for those that may say, hey, this study was only men, check below in my personal notes. There's a study similarly done, and it's for women only. The takeaway, though, is that the authors of this study, they bring up a very interesting point, and it's a concept of why we may be overdoing our cravings, and it's playing out in your life right now, and you've never even heard of it. It's called opportunistic voracity. They stated factors such as variety and or unlimited availability of foods seem to explain this phenomenon. Imagine spending days in a lab. I'm sure the researchers had something fun for the participants to do, but I imagine that eating was probably one of the most enjoyable things for them. Now, I was going to ask for how many of us is eating the most enjoyable thing we do, but on second thought, we all enjoy eating. We should look forward to eating. It's an enjoyable experience. That's not really the problem here. You see, opportunistic voracity has more to do with frictionless access. Let's not forget the participants had food coming straight out of a vending machine. We're talking 1, 2, 3, and you have food. I wonder what other frictionless opportunities we have. Oh, how about the world we live in? Drive-thrus, actual vending machines, our pantry, we got the cookie jar in there. DoorDash and Uber Eats stock hasn't fallen since their conception. How about any food that requires no forethought, prep planning, or proactivity to eat? And you know I'm not talking about apples and pears, I'm talking about that junk. As the Brownie study states, how can we reduce cravings in an environment rife with food cues? Wait, I don't know about this question. I don't know if we can reduce cravings, right? Cravings are here to stay, and they're actually reinforced by food cues. What we should be asking is, how can we regain control of ourselves in these craving moments? And boy, you're gonna wanna watch to the end because we got some great strategies coming up on that. But first, let's unravel this phrase, food cue. Okay, who here struggles with sody pop, that canned goodness? Why do some of us struggle with sody pop? Because it's fun. It's fun, but it's not fun for our insides. And we know this. That's why we try to take breaks from it. The problem is when we are on our healthy tip, what's out there other than regular old water? Add more enjoyable things to your health arsenal. That's why I recommend LMNT. Let's take a moment to shout them out. They are this channel's sponsor. LMNT is an electrolyte drink mix that supplies our body with sodium, magnesium, and potassium that our body needs to function properly. As opposed to the junk we drink, there's purpose behind the LMNT drink mix. Now, hydration is important. We've been shedding a whole lot more light on hydration is not just the job of H2O alone. Electrolytes are the traffic guards that directs water to where it needs to be. So we need both H2O and electrolytes. Now, I drink LMNT just about every day to kind of check off my hydration box, but it's really, really good for those of us that move more, because those of us that move more use more, and we want to be able to replace those back. Now, I'm not going to really tell anybody to get anything based on how it could potentially make them feel, right? Feelings are just way too subjective, but I actually decided to reach out to LMNT because of the impact it made in my life. LMNT is probably one of the only things that I felt a tangible, noticeable difference when I start supplementing it in and really focusing on that hydrational aspect. If you want to try them out, check out the description of this video and hit the link, and any drink mix purchase, you're actually going to get a free sample pack that varies all of the flavors. That way you'll be able to choose and see which one is your favorite. Grapefruit's been a real kick for me right now, especially as we get into the summer heat, so I'm excited to keep consuming some iced grapefruit LMNT. You know you're a little happy when you start doing this dance right here. Okay, so check out below. That link is available for everybody, whether you've tried them before or not. All right, thank you LMNT for being a channel sponsor. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so cravings, these aren't on accident, right? They aren't as random as we think. They can actually be entrained. And when I say that, we're kicking it way back to high school psychology. That's right, Pavlov doggo experiment. Allow me to refreshen you. In the 19th century, a Russian Soviet physiologist named Pavlov observed his dog salivated in response to eating food. But not just that, he noticed them salivating as soon as food was placed in front of them. Pavlov had an idea. He started ringing a bell before placing food in front of the dogs. After doing this a number of times, he observed his dog salivating at the sound of the bell alone when food didn't even follow. The pairing of the bell with the food became such a strong association that the doggos expected food anytime they heard the bell, even when food did not come. Pavlov found himself posted in every psychology book from that point on, because guess what? Pavlovian conditioning doesn't apply to just doggos. It applies to me, you, and your neighbor. See, a lot of us may have really been in the mood for a brownie when I was talking them up earlier, and that's because of the power of the food cue. The craving will always be preceded by the cue. Pavlov will call a food cue an unconditioned stimulus, right? Because we don't have to be conditioned to want food after thinking about it. That's completely normal. That's a completely normal craving. In fact, we have a name for how our body responds when it believes it's about to intake food. It's called the cephalic phase. The cephalic phase consists of a cascade of physiological responses that take place in preparation of the intake of food, meaning that when we see food, smell food, or even think of food, the body's gonna prime itself up and prepare for it. Eating is quite the heavy task. Remember, we're taking stuff from the outside world, resources from the outside world, and giving it to the body so that it can transform these things into items the body can use. That's quite the uptake. And because of that, it makes sense that the body would have to properly gear up to be able to undergo this process. In the same way, we'd probably start our old car in the winter so that it doesn't start make those old car winter noises when we're driving. You know what I'm talking about. So there are these responses like salivating or pre-releasing insulin, right? Insulin's job is to store leftover energy in the blood. These are things that are going on during that cephalic phase. According to Pavlov, the cephalic phase, these responses would be called unconditioned responses. Now, if every time I eat dinner, I turn on my favorite Netflix series, mine is currently SWAT, give me two, then what I'm doing is forming a strong association between dinner and Netflix. Because of this, if I were to go on and watch Netflix but not eat, my body may still engage in the cephalic phase, meaning that it's expecting food. So that would be a conditioned response, and me watching SWAT would be a conditioned stimulus. Because if I turn the show on and I'm not hungry, I still may find myself eating because of how strongly I've built the association between the two. I love The Incredibles. I realize the movie is so good because of scenes like this. How many of us see ourselves in this exact position? Ooh, I see, I want, I eat. It doesn't seem like there's any association or any Pavlovian conditioning. It's just a straight up food cue. And we're gonna talk about how to regain control in these moments, because these are those critical moments that start to add up and chip away at our health outcomes. Cravings, they are a feeling, right? We can't reach out and touch them. We can't see them under a microscope. In fact, they're multidimensional. They're dynamic. They're variable, they're highly individual as well, and they're subjective. So you may think, just like I did, that we can't really pin them down to one mechanism. But it turns out craving has been studied for millennia. And in fact, that feeling, that drive to eat these highly palatable foods is a universal feeling. And we've been able to really break it down and learn more by understanding what's going on up here. That's right, baby. We're talking neural mechanisms. I reached out to a neuropsychopharmacologist buddy of mine. Yeah, that's right, I'm plugged in. I say, hey, listen, I'm making a video on cravings because it seems like we don't even got self-control sometimes. What do you got for me? And he sent me this. Now, your first reaction may be opioids. What? Don't freak out. It turns out many of the neural structures involved in addictive behavior are also involved in food reward. So I guess the next question is, can we be addicted to food reward? There are two different systems influencing how we eat: homeostatic pathways and hedonic pathways. Anytime we see the word homeostatic, we should be thinking physiological balance, the constant task of the body checking itself, right? If fuel for energy is low, the body sends out a signal for us to eat. We begin eating and our stomach gets full, and then we are in a fed state. We put the fork down because the signal has turned off. Hedonic pathways are based on seeking reward, so they can easily override the homeostatic pathway in wake of gaining that feel-good feeling from highly palatable foods. That's a lot like life, ain't it? Having to choose between what we should do and what we really want to do. Neurologically speaking, what we want to do always has the upper hand here, but do not lose hope. We can train ourselves. Stick around for that. Ghrelin, it's a hormone. Ghrelin is a hormone that stimulates appetite. It stimulates eating behavior. Check this out. Ghrelin is highly expressed within the hypothalamus, but also in different areas of the mesolimbic dopamine system. What does this mean? What are we saying? We're saying that ghrelin can be released based on a homeostatic or a hedonic influence. So ghrelin is the guy behind that driving force for us to eat when we need the energy. But he's also the guy behind our cravings for us to eat food simply because we desire it, regardless of if we're hungry or not. As being hungry is not a prerequisite for experiencing a food craving. Okay, everybody likes pizza. If you like pizza, like this video. If you don't, I need 2 reasons why in the comments. Also, I hate to break this to you, but you're not allowed in this next study. Researchers took 10 healthy men in hopes of learning more about the relation between the reward of highly palatable food and overeating it. And anyone who disliked pizza was not allowed in the study. So this study takes a look at opioid receptors. The reason that really bad addictive drugs called opioids have really bad addictive effects on us is because we have opioid receptors. Well, why the heck would God give us those? Well, the drugs are the problem, not the receptors, because we actually make homemade or endogenous opioids. When these opioids are expressed, they can signal dopamine and thrust us into a reward cycle that could lead us into overeating. In theory, why do I say in theory? Well, let's look at this study. We release these endogenous opioids following a meal. If the release of these opioids is related to a hedonic response, then the pleasure caused by these highly palatable foods should increase the opioid release in a dose-dependent manner. In other words, if we're eating based on desire, we may have a stronger opioid response. That's what they're testing. So they set these guys down, measured them up, and had them all consume their preferred type of pizza one day and a liquid meal on another day. The liquid meal drink consisted of pure carbohydrate, whey protein, flour, canola oil, and salt. Following the meal, the folks were measured up again, and researchers found that 7 out of the 10 participants had an opioid release during palatable food condition, and 10 out of 10 had the opioid release during the non-palatable food condition. Despite the pizza exclusively raising subjective pleasure for all the subjects, they found that the opioid release was stronger following the liquid drink compared to the pizza. These results suggest that there is no relation between our subjective amount of pleasure from these highly palatable foods and endogenous opioid release. Instead, they believe these opioids were released for homeostatic purposes. So the study only had 10 folks, but remember, when a study does not have a lot of people, it actually allows for the scientists usually to exert a little bit more control and have their hands on more things, which is going to yield higher quality results. And from what I can judge, this is a pretty well done study. These results just mean that we probably can't say that the pleasure from eating highly palatable foods alone can lead us into overeating or highly addictive behavior, depending on the opioid system. In other words, stay in school and away from drugs. And really all of this makes sense because ghrelin, our eat-encouraging hormone, doesn't need the opioid system to express its influence. It seems that learned behavior, association, and cephalic phase entrainment based on food cues is what's behind our cravings. The good news is that we can unlearn, disassociate, and detrain our responses to these cues. Let's get into it. 3.5 food rules that can change your life. I'll preface them by saying that it depends upon your level of intentionality, how serious you want to take your nutrition. You can do 1, 2, or all 3.5. Number 1, sit down as we eat. Consider when our worst snacking takes place. It takes place in passing. We just spot something on a counter or we see something in the pantry and we are on our feet. Once we see food, the brain has a tough time overriding the craving that follows the cue. So don't try to override it. We're just going to allow ourselves the permission to have the food just under set conditions. This review pulled together 8 studies that had people restrict themselves of certain comfort foods. 7 out of the 8 studies found that in just a few days, participants found themselves with increased cravings for the foods they were told to avoid. In other words, saying no to the foods seemed to increase the desire for them. Now, I didn't deep dive into the methodology of all of these studies. I just considered the diet fatigue that we experience, right? White knuckling our way resisting certain things, it almost always seems to slingshot us in the direction we don't want to go. So these food rules, they're really just to be a little bit more savvy with how we devote our brain power. Rule number 2, monotask eat. This is also called mindful eating. Multitask eating gets us in trouble, especially if you're anything like me, where my association with the task can be so strong that I may find myself eating until the task is complete. I once found myself eating uncapped handfuls of trail mix while I was reading a book, and the trail mix wasn't put down until I put the book down. There was a time I was eating pistachios during my 30-minute commute to and from work, start to finish. The pistachios weren't put down until I was done driving. Because of the amount of focus that we're dedicating to just eating, we're going to be a lot more in tune with our signals the body is sending us, i.e. when the stomach is expanding and it's time for our mealtime cessation, right? The action of ending our mealtime. We'll have a better understanding of when that actually is. So a lot of us are going to end up eating a lot less and feel just as full and just as good. And this deficit of food, or this deficit of calories over time, can add up and potentially do some great for our waistline as well. We're chewing a lot slower and taking more chunks. We're chewing more because we're just focusing on eating, which you could imagine this is all advantageous for our digestive machinery that's in charge of undertaking this massive, incredible task. And we're not overworking it. Our prefrontal cortex can be more involved when we're just eating, right? The part of the brain that's actively screening and judging what we're doing, which when we want to go crazy on dessert, maybe we could use a little bit more of that screening and judging. Monotask eating is extremely tough for a lot of us, and especially nowadays, but I'm telling you right now, it's probably the most beneficial and practical thing that you can implement this very hour that will literally give you the upper hand in your relationship with food. Rule number 3, always take out a separate serving. Quick story, my younger sister was having a nostalgic phase where she was ordering old Scooby snacks, the graham cracker joint. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Somehow, some of them ended up stored in the upper cabinet. Now, what's funny is that she can't see in the upper cabinet, but I can because I'm taller. So they were there for months just stored. And I thought that she knew they were there just as I did. And then one day I pointed out, I said, hey, you still got Scooby snacks in this cabinet. And she goes, what? I do? And she reached in the cabinet in that very moment, took them out and started eating them. And I was thinking, out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind is in effect right now. The mind focuses on what's in front of it. So when it comes to us enjoying things that are coming out of a container, it's crucial that we take out a separate serving size and get away from the container, because if our mind sees it, it's going to think that's my serving size, and then we end up eating like a werewolf. Also, when we don't get away from the container, our brain doesn't have anything to cue off of to let us know when to stop, i.e. an empty plate. So what ends up happening when we just kind of hover over a container, our brain never really breaks away from that cephalic phase that we talked about either. And that's just going to lead us to consuming more and more and more. The good news is we can always go back and get another serving. And now for the half rule. Follow the rules. Because once our brain figures out it can break them, it has less of an issue doing it again. And thus, it's going to be harder to continually employ them. A busy chef can be preparing delicious food all day, smelling the food, pushing it out, and will not take as much as a single fry off of his patron's plate because he understands that is not an option. That same brain power we can use for ourselves. We can be around these foods and not partake, but it's all dependent upon the conditions we give our brain. Okay, now a special bonus point for my fast food people, my drive-through people. Cutting out fast food cold turkey is not going to be sustainable for long. So allow yourself the permission to have it just under these conditions. Choose 1 to 2 days out of the week you can have it, and for one meal of that day. Cut out the drive-through completely. Don't allow yourself to take food through a brick wall. If you want to order, you have to go inside, sit down, and follow the other 3 food rules. But Johnny, I don't really have time for that. Who's gonna do that? I don't really want you eating fast food anyway. Frictionless access, that's what we're up against in modern day. And for modern day adversaries, we need modern day weapons. All right, I'm off to go enjoy some pizza and brownies and wash it down with a Coke, no diet. Don't forget to go below and get yourself some of that element and hit the like button on your way out. I hope you guys got some value out of this one. I'm gonna get about y'all way.